Hello and welcome to From the Heart of the City, a podcast. My name is Kevin George. I am Dean and Rector of St. Paul's Cathedral in beautiful downtown London, and I host this podcast where we talk about the intersection between faith and radical hospitality, intersections around politics, and how we express our faith when we follow in the way of Jesus. I want to thank you for taking time to listen to this podcast or watch it from wherever and whenever you might be doing so. Every week on this podcast, we talk about community, about what it would look like for us to love our neighbor in practical ways, and in ways in which we can do what we can to create communities where all people flourish. Now, speaking of that, if you've walked through downtown London, Ontario, for that matter, if you've walked through the downtown of any major city in Canada, you have likely noticed the challenges. Homelessness, addiction, mental health, housing insecurity, it's all right there for us to see. These are issues that are no longer happening just behind closed doors, while they are happening behind closed doors, but are often happening now right out in plain sight. And as a part of the daily life in this city and in many cities from which I'm sure you're listening. And they're a big part of the ministry we share here at St. Paul's Cathedral, the work of Paul's Place and Nishta Chakrabarty and Shala, Kevin, Jessica, and all the staff here at St. Paul's. We're engaged in this work every day. Today's guest is Chris Moss, and Chris is the executive director of London Cares. She spent years walking alongside of people experiencing homelessness and has become one of our city's most respected voices on housing first, on outreach, on the importance of treating every person with dignity. She is tireless in her efforts to keep up with the relentless demands that come along with the work of serving the most vulnerable citizens of London, Ontario. Whether you agree with every approach or not, and I know that not everybody agrees on the solutions to homelessness, I hope you'll listen to the conversation we're about to have with an open mind and an open heart. Because behind every policy debate, realistically, we're talking about human beings, people created in the eyes of God, beloved children of God. And so please listen with care, because every one of those statistics has a story. Every one of the people that you see down here has a story. And perhaps one of the greatest challenges facing us in this modern day is learning to see one another not as problems, but as neighbors, not as a problem to be solved, but as a neighbor to be loved. And I know sometimes that's hard work, but that's really what this conversation I'm about to have with Chris really points to. So, without any further ado, my conversation with Chris Moss, Executive Director of London Cares. Chris, welcome to From the Heart of the City, a podcast. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's so good. I've had you here before, but we haven't been recording everything, so it's good now we get to have a conversation recorded, right?
Exactly.
So as many of you know, Chris has been deeply involved in work around homelessness in this city for a long time and brings an incredible amount of enthusiasm and expertise to this field. Just a little bit for people to get to know, for some of our listeners or viewers who come to us from out of region and might not know as much about you. You've spent much of your career working with people who are often overlooked.
That's right.
What drew you to that work?
Oh, what a great question. Yeah. You're stumping me right from the beginning. I feel like I, from a very young age, felt compassion. And so, one of my earliest jobs was the YMCA, and just working with humans and getting a chance to see what community looked like from a value system of care. And that's this essence of what the YMCA really was. And it just kind of lingered in me. And I tried the corporate world for a little bit, but I couldn't do it. So 35 years of nonprofits around poverty and mental health and homelessness. And,
What drew you to London Cares? Like, what was it about the lived experience that you've had that you were like, you know what? Because you've been there for a little bit now.
Yeah,
right?
2 years almost.
2 years, right? Yeah. You and I are about the same timing in terms of coming to this downtown here, because I came here just over 2.5 years ago, and I knew it was right about the same time that you came to London Cares. So what drew you to that?
I think, so I'd been working as a consultant for a while, and I was a little I'm not going to say, well, maybe a little bored of not being in something. So,
Right.
You kind of flutter around and you do a bunch of different things, but I felt like I needed to get in and like impact something.
Right.
So I saw the opportunity come up for London Cares. And what came in my mind first was, oh my goodness, that's a crisis. Do do I really want to do crisis work? And then I just started hearing and seeing the staff. And I recognized what my strength is in sort of the leadership of caring and culture within a team. And I thought maybe if I could care for the team, they could care for the people.
Nice.
And I just felt like that was what I was being kind of pulled towards, was helping these people who were exhausted, burned out, in the middle of something that was way bigger than any one of us, for sure.
And so to give people some perspective, like what that staff, like how many people are we talking about?
Yeah, we have close to 100 people before the whole House of Hope changes that we have coming. And so it's a lot of people. They're all, around 2 years or less, because there's a lot of burnout in the sector. So a lot of new people on a regular basis, and a lot of younger people. I'm the oldest one. So I felt a bit like I could bring a bit more of a mentorship feel, a bit of a care as a leader.
It must be interesting to watch some of the young ones, because they're really gaining an experience.
Yeah.
Like you think about what their biggest, I'm sure for a lot of them, it's the beginning of their work journey, right?
It's the beginning, right out of school, many of them. Yeah.
And so they're taking on, as you know, in terms of the crisis and the level of care required.
Yeah.
They're really going baptism by fire.
And I worked in healthcare for, 15 years, and this team does more work around, doing CPR, doing hard, very dirty, very challenging, very messy work. It's unlike anything I've seen before. And after a 35-year career in this nonprofit sector in this community, this is the hardest I've ever worked. The type of leadership is unusual. You can't be a prescriptive sort of HR leader. You have to lead with a very different type of compassion and an understanding.
And I would have to think that at least I find in terms of my own work here, it's easier to get people to do something or to come along if you're willing to roll your sleeves up and do it yourself. Right?
Yeah. And that was surprising. I remember my very first week, I said to the team, hey, I want to come out with you. And I got in the vehicle and I said, no, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous. We're going out to an encampment. I've not seen an encampment like before or like that personally. And they looked at me and they said, we're nervous too. And I said, why are you nervous? They said, well, we've never had a leader in our car, an executive director in our car. And
interesting.
And I thought, wow, in that moment, I recognized power I didn't think that I had.
That's right.
In that title.
That's right.
And I also recognized it was that first moment of breaking that down and to go out with them and not to be afraid, not to show fear, but to actually be with them and learn from them and treat them like the experts that they are. Because even if they're new at their job, they're way smarter than I am. They do harder work than I do physically. And
also, if you're going to be able to be present to them in any way, to know what they're going through.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I think it will be interesting because I think a lot of people see London Cares, they see the building down at, Queen and Adelaide, but most people have no idea what's being done.
It's funny.
Like to give people some thought about, because you were saying like getting in a vehicle and going out, maybe you can share a bit about what the sort of level of service that London Cares provides across the board.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, actually. I thought it was really small when I sort of started. There is a really large outreach team. So you have 5 different types of teams that are on, plus a phone system with a gentleman that works, named Paul, who works at our phone line. And he does just as much work, social work on the phone as the teams do who go out. And they go out 2 by 2. We have a fleet of vehicles. They're always out downtown, midtown, in the core. They're all every edge of the city. They're everywhere. So that team is working from 7 a.m. until 2:30 in the morning every single day. Then we have a team called our Housing Stability Team with about 15 people there, and they wrap around people who are living in market rent. So very, very low income housing. So it comes with its own problems along the way. And so they're doing a lot of navigating advocacy work with landlords, support to get people to learn how to live on their own again, keep them stable so that they're successful. So we don't disengage or leave them until they're successful in their housing. And then we have a team at 602 Queens, which is a magical place and so misunderstood.
Yeah.
When you enter the space, there's a part of it called the Commons, which is our day space. And you walk in and there's washrooms, there's showers, there's washing machines, dryers, there's staff who are caring for you. You can use the phone, you can call your doctor, you can make appointments. We have probation, parole that come in, Ontario Works, anything around finances, seniors needing OAS, anything like that. We care for pets. We have a vet service that comes in. We have Indigenous services that are there, cultural services, healthcare, Thames Valley Family Health Team, so nurse practitioners, nurses. We do wound care on site, vaccines on site. We roster people to medical. It really is an incredibly fulsome
Quite a beehive
program. It's a lot going on.
A lot of worker bees, right? I mean, it's interesting. Like you used the word magical, and I was thinking most people who drive by that corner would not use the word magical to describe what they see.
They use every other word but that.
Right. And so, how do you combat that? Like, I mean, that's hard because I know, right? I know the kind of work that you're doing there. Many of us who are working to be as allied as we can and be involved in advocacy do that. But for a lot of, because politics tends to color so much, right? Yeah. And we've had to deal with certain elements in this city politically who continue to paint things in a negative light. But people are not hearing about the magical way things are happening inside. And they see the people who are struggling outside. And then, I find it takes a lot of energy to push back against the nonsense is the way I talk about it. But, and maybe that's too dismissive, but
I agree with you. So it's funny because at the very beginning, I remembered it bothered me so much. So I'd be outside, I would see cars drive by, people would roll down their window and spit on our yard,
swear,
yell, scream at us. You can see it on social media. They're always, yelling about it. I got really upset. And then what I learned really fast was that was going to burn me out.
Yes.
And so I had to turn it off. And focus. I focus on what I see my team do. I focus on what's right in front of my nose. I can't worry about what's not on our yard. What's outside of that is not for me to worry about. The humans that come to this space are some of the most kind, the most misunderstood, and the most vulnerable people I've ever met.
Incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah. It's so sad.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and I think, and this is where, from my perspective in the work that we're trying to do here at St. Paul's, it's sort of where it dovetails with the work around human dignity and the theology of people being created in the image of God and so on. And last week's episode was with Kevin Nye and this book, which I have here for our friend Chris for coming and joining us today. Yeah. But anyway, Kevin writes a lot about this, about how the homelessness crisis is not so much for him a political issue as it is a theological issue. That what does it say about who we are, people of faith, that we've allowed ourselves to devolve to a place where things are like this.
That's right.
And so, part of the challenge in my own work is trying to remind people of what the gospel has called them to. And I think that Jesus has a lot to say about dignity and about poverty and about hunger and about all those things.
That's it.
And when we show up at church on Sunday and ignore all that and drive by London Cares and yell some obscenity out the window because we don't like the sight of things, I worry that we've lost the thread somehow.
That's right. It's really a hard tension to hold. So one of the things I struggle with is, living in community, living near places that do serve, I understand. Yeah. There's definitely concern. There is safety issues. Yeah. There is messes that are possibly on your yard or down the street. And all of that is true at the same time.
Right.
And for some reason, I'm noticing, it's harder and harder for people to hold empathy when you're in it all the time.
Right.
And so I think we need to do something. I don't know what the answer is, and I think that's the problem. But it isn't about hating each other and fighting about it. I think what we need to understand is the issue really is that politicizing of the issue. And
that's right.
And where is the actual issue?
Right. And in an environment now where things are increasingly polarized, right? So we love the binaries more than ever now, right? So you pick your camp and people are siloed. into their own echo
versus
chambers,
them. Yeah.
right? So if you don't have that lived experience, if you haven't met somebody or you don't know somebody, which if you think about it, you and I know you don't have to go very far
That's right.
to realize that most families have somebody who's struggling with addiction in some way, shape, or form, or homelessness in some way, shape, or form, or unstable housing, and so on and so forth. So tell me, what do you think? Because, you hear people say, like, why don't they just get a job? Why don't people look after themselves and quit the drugs and all this? And that conversation that you would have heard if you listened to this podcast last week was about housing first and about why that matters and why it's so important that, we not over moralize and have people jump through so many hoops. So, but what do you think? People say that business of get a job or move on. What's most misunderstood, you think, about those who are dealing with chronic homelessness? What are people missing?
Yeah, I think, if we're talking chronic homelessness, so these are people that have probably been out for 5, 10, 15 years on the street, they're physically unable to do so.
Right.
So I hear it a lot. Chris, I would work at Tim Hortons. Are they just not humble enough to take a job there? It just, there's a lack of understanding. So,
it's a romantic notion too, right? We just take them to Tim Hortons and get them a job.
Yeah. Because that's easy too, right? Yeah. Nobody can get jobs anywhere right now with the unemployment rate the way that it is. But I think people forget, so I use the analogy, I share, if I had to sleep on the concrete overnight, I don't think I would physically be able to stand up the next day.
Wouldn't function well.
I would be so sore. I already am like that when I get out of bed.
Right.
I'm getting older. It's aching. But if you're there day after day, night after night, all the time for years, your body has fallen apart. Your mind has fallen apart. You've become, in order to survive, you have to understand the street ecosystem, right? So you have to be part of that street community.
That's right.
And then that behavior becomes very challenging to unlearn.
Yes.
And that unlearning takes years and years and years. And sometimes it's as little as I no longer have to urinate on myself.
Right.
Because I do that to stay safe so no one hurts me at night.
That's right.
Now I don't have to do that. Well, I might have lost that ability to remember that.
Yeah,
and it sounds crass, but that's as hard as it is. It's hard out there.
And I feel like too, the other thing I think that people forget, or maybe they don't forget, they just don't know. It's the other thing, people are terribly ill-informed about this population of citizens, and it's important that I keep saying that, because we're in silly season, an election year, and we're hearing our politicians talk about what citizens want, as if those who are living on the streets are not citizens as well.
Exactly.
However, but what a lot of people don't understand, particularly as you say with those who have been experiencing chronic homelessness, is the amount of trauma. That if you're meeting somebody who's been on the street for a long time, 9 chances out of 10 that person's background has some really serious trauma.
100%.
Right?
Not even their background, their experience on the street
right
as
now.
well.
But a lot of them ended up there in having incredible traumatic backgrounds. And so you talk about go get a job or go to this. I mean, it's like if there's someone in your family who has gone through a traumatic experience, ask yourself what you would expect of them.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
In response, to just pull up by your bootstraps, that sort of weird conservative notion that people can look after themselves somehow.
Yeah, I also find that, it's often people who are like, I don't understand how this can happen. And they have family, they have support systems. There's often people who bounce around foster systems. They've never really had any anchor in their life. They don't have anyone to ask for help.
That's right.
And it's just so much easier to slip into homelessness. It's really challenging.
Yeah. Someone once said to me, well, we all start with the same. I said, oh my gosh.
No, we do not.
No, we do not.
No.
We do not. No. And the longer I live, the more I see it, right? And I mean, I grew up in a little village in Newfoundland, right? A little small place, youngest of 7 kids. We didn't have anything. We didn't know we didn't have anything because what we had was a community, and nobody felt through the cracks, right?
Yeah.
And I forever now think about all the ways in which my own life, how I've been privileged to be able to do what I did because there were people who cared for me.
Yeah.
And then when I meet people here who come into Paul's place, for instance, and they come in for a meal, And I get talking to them, and you realize how much they didn't have of what I had, right?
That's right.
And I didn't get, why did I get it? It's not a special reward.
I know.
It's just to happen like a circumstance of birth.
That's right. The color of my skin, the location of my birth, the demographic of the parents I had, the jobs I was able to get, the schooling I had or didn't have. That's all like luck.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so razor thin.
Yeah.
So I've told this story elsewhere, but years ago when the ARC first started, Arcade, when Jim Fraser started the ARC here all those years ago, I was a student, and I had hair then and less flesh, and I was at St. Michael and All Angels Church as a theology student, and I put as one of my learning goals, I wanted to learn about urban ministry, which seems very funny to me now. I'm dean in downtown London, and I was young then, just out of this little place in Newfoundland, and the ARC had just started, and they were looking for churches to come and sort of take an evening, and my supervisor then, John Marsh, said, I'm going to get you to organize some teams to go, which I did. And I was down there one evening, and my job that night was the coffee, so I was going around pouring coffee, and there was this one guy who was on like his fourth coffee with like 6 sugars in each one, right? You know the routine, right? And all at once, as I was pouring him his 6th coffee, he says to me, you're from Whiteway, aren't you? Now, Whiteway, as I said, is a town of 300 people in rural Newfoundland. And I stopped in my tracks, and I looked at him, and I realized I was serving coffee to a young fellow who's just 2 years younger than me. We went to the same school. His brother and my brother were best friends. We both grew up in very similar yet different backgrounds in some ways.
Yeah.
And here I was, a master's student at a prestigious university, helping out, feeling good about myself because I was a do-gooder. And I looked past somebody I knew all my life for like 5 coffees until he called my name, because I couldn't even see his face amongst those people and realize. And so we both came from small town Newfoundland.
That's right.
And here we are.
So I have a friend, and him and his sister experienced the exact same trauma, childhood trauma. Both of them ended up dealing with that trauma in very different ways. Right. So the sister ended up on the street, addicted to drugs and living homeless for many, many years.
Wow.
And then the brother was, his addiction was workaholism, and became high achiever, and actually lauded for awards and how great he was. Same trauma, different outcomes. And both came from the same family, same environment, same everything else. So it really is hard to just come up with a reason.
It's razor thin.
Razor thin.
Like, it's like, and it's happened since here, even since I've been here in St. Paul's, where I've come across the same reality in my background. And that's the part I think that I try to think about a lot when I'm in this. And it is messy and tiring and all that stuff, right? Homelessness, on people being unhoused in London, I think things have changed a lot, particularly post-COVID. How would you describe the change over the past decade, say? Oh, yeah.
My dad was a barber downtown. And I remember
Your dad was a barber
My dad was a barber downtown for almost 60 years.
You won't believe this.
What?
Yesterday,
yeah,
I went to the barber.
I know you did not.
I did. I go once every 3 weeks. And that's the most ridiculous thing. Look at this. The last thing I need is a barber, but I so love going to the barber that I go and I get a hot towel, shave head and face every 3 weeks. I just go.
I love it.
It's stupid. I could do this in the shower in 5 minutes. Talk about
barbers
privilege.
are special though.
But the barber shops are like
they're special.
So your dad was barbering down here.
60 years he barbered right downtown London.
Wow.
So I used to come downtown and hang out with them, and he'd give me some money. I'd go off and do something downtown and come back again. It was, I always would remember he would always give $1 to this gentleman who would sit outside his door. It was the same guy every day, but it was mostly men. A lot of like alcoholics who lived on the street, and they didn't want to be bothered. They didn't bother others. They just kind of lived their life. That's what I remember homelessness being as a child. The experts that I learn from now, they say about 9 years ago that really shifted, and it really shifted because of the drugs. So when opioids came in and pharmaceuticals kept downloading, and using a lot of opioids, and then it became abused in the system, people became addicted in different ways. You had a lot of people just with pain, a lot of people thinking they were using drugs normally, prescribed by their doctor, slipping into addiction. And now it's just fentanyl's just a way worse opioid. Like, it's just really bad.
And who knows what you're getting. Right?
And you don't know what you're getting. And now it's even scarier because it's made in a shop, like it's chemical, synthetic. They put a whole bunch of like horse tranquilizers and all this other stuff in it. So when I hear the term like of junkies and druggies on your yard, and why are they all bent over? Well, they have horse tranquilizers in their body, and it's because there's no access to drugs that can be helpful to them. And what do I mean by that? Because that makes everyone freak out when you talk about this. When people are in so much trauma and so much pain, they will self-medicate. The general public does it with wine and beer and cigarettes.
I go to a safe injection site 2 or 3 days a week. It's the pub.
It's the pub.
Yeah.
And so, marijuana, cannabis, same thing.
Yeah.
And for some, that's just not enough because the trauma is so significant. There's a lot of debate on this topic right now, and a lot of hate towards that. A lot of hate towards.
And again, the politicians have co-opted it.
And
right?
here we go, right? So it's no taxpayer dollars if you're going to be high. Don't, if we have taxpayer dollars going to this shelter, they have to make sure they're clean before they get in. Well, that just adds barrier after barrier after barrier, and we're just going to end up with more and more people on our streets because they can't stop using drugs without the assistance. And there's not enough assistance out there. There's not enough treatment, not enough withdrawal. There's not enough help. No. And we need to understand it better. And
that gets downloaded to every Londoner then, right?
Yeah.
And because, and you've heard me talk about this before, and I preached here a few weeks back or a couple months ago about an overdose we had right here at the door. And thanks be to God for Jessica and Shell, our staff, the team we have here who know what they're doing, and they were able to reverse that. But we're only going to see more of that when the sort of morality forces, as I call them, continue to take away the work that Dr. Sarita is doing, the safe injection sites, needle point or safe or care point. Pardon me. These things, and you see it every day,
every
right?
Day.
So I struggle sometimes, like you say, trying to get across to people, why taking that away is a bad idea, because people just think, well, logically, the best thing you could do is just take it away from them. But it's not that simple. And if you can look at it, as an illness, which it properly is, then how are we treating that? Is the treatment really going to be as barbaric as we're just going to make you find your own way?
Yeah.
And then, so we'll set you off to a church to look after you.
That's right.
Like that,
it doesn't make any sense.
The idea that people think that you can just, take the treatment away, right? Get rid of the care points, get rid of the places where people can safely inject or the pharmacies that prescribe and all that. Yeah. And then we all deal with it.
That's right. And the language I hear and I read on social media all the time is harm reduction creates dependency.
Yes.
And I'm going to argue that it's the pharmaceutical companies and all of that actually creates the dependencies.
That's right.
What we're doing is we're trying to make sure they stay alive while they're seeking the treatment. And when no treatment exists, that is just us trying to keep people alive for for what? It's just literally getting them from day to day.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to layer in, political choice, when they say, oh, we have to figure this out, so we need more enforcement because we can't use drugs, so we're going to enforce it. So now you have people who now are afraid to go outside and be there, so they're going to hide.
Yeah, they're going to die.
It's not going to change the usage, but they're going to be hidden. So they're going to be in people's backyards or alleyways, and they won't have people to reverse their overdoses.
That's right.
And so that all really scares me.
Yeah, me too. Because because again, I go back to the dignity piece, and in our tradition in the Anglican Church, when you are baptized, the commitment, that's one of the commitments that's made in the promises, is you will strive for peace and unity among all people and respect the dignity of every human being.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to respect the dignity of another human being, how do I get to the place where I say their life is more expendable, is not worth as much as, because they're addicted to drugs? Their life doesn't have the same value. Who else would present to you that was dying where you would go, it's their own fault?
I think there's some of that behind some of the decisions that we're seeing, which is I actually don't want to put money to this.
100% it is. And if you listen to the politicians, it's all very clear.
100%.
Right? So, I think that's what I think one of the big misunderstandings is really for people. They think that it's, and the other thing that I hear a lot is, well, it's not changing anything, right? Nothing is changing, and they just continue to abuse and they continue to be addicted. But that's not all true either.
That's absolutely not true. And in fact, the data shows the opposite. So while the number doesn't look like it's changing, so we have roughly 2,200 people on our streets, right?
More people coming in.
Every single month, my team finds between 20 and 50 people.
Yeah.
And so if the number's not going up, it's staying pretty clear, but we're finding 50 plus people every single month. We know it's working, and there is flow. And there are people that wake up every single day and say, today's the day I'm going to get some help. We have people come in the Commons at 6:02 every day. I want to go get help. We drive people to Sarnia, Windsor, St. Thomas.
Are you trying to tell me that they don't want to remain junkies
they don't.
and drug heads and druggies? Imagine.
They want their kids
Because I keep hearing that. Why do they want to be like this?
That's right. They don't want to be like this.
Thank you.
In many cases.
Yeah. So they come in and they're asking.
Stuck in it. And so sometimes when you're stuck in it, the I don't want to be in it is stuck because they're like, the effort to get out of it is so overwhelming.
Gargantuan.
And there's no help. And everyone's underfunded.
Yeah.
The money that it's going to take to solve this is
It's
in the
huge.
billions of dollars
Billions,
because it's been years and years and years of neglect and funding. And so this give us 100,000 here, 100,000, it's not helping.
No.
It's perpetuating what's happening.
Yeah, it's keeping the status quo, and that's why like people hear numbers like 25 million, and they get, and I'm like, well, that's just a drop in the bucket.
It's a rounding error from many other budgets that we see.
Yeah, it's nothing.
And it's really keeping people. Yeah.
So housing first, because like London Cares clearly housing first.
We are.
So why is stable housing? I mean, I know the answer to this, but for our listeners, why is stable housing a starting point rather than a reward for doing all the right things?
Yeah, really great. And I love how you phrase that. So everyone deserves a home. I mean, just like food, water, shelter, right? It's the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. We as a community need to make sure people are out of the elements in a place that's stable, because once you're there, then you can relax. So if you can imagine your body being all tense because you're afraid, when you get your home and you no longer have to be protecting yourself or doing all things that you need to do to stay alive, you can relax your body, your central nervous system relaxes, and all of a sudden you can start to think better. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm stressed out, my brain doesn't work all that great. Once your brain gets back online, you can start making different choices, and with staff and support, you can get lead towards that treatment decision for sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that's, again, it's about dignity. And so but what fascinates me too is we have evidence of this. Like there are jurisdictions that have done, some of them quite conservative jurisdictions actually, but because they saw it as financially advantageous, because they save money by doing this, because it takes so much money out of the system in terms of treatment.
It really does.
Right? Because you prevent a lot of things by doing this. So I mean, I think that's, I mean, and it is billions. I mean, I just find it frustrating to think that our best answer to that at the moment is an area that's fenced in south of the 401 on a farm field. I don't mean to disparage those who are doing it. I'll be clear. I'm happy that something is being done.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
But it disappoints me at the same time that that's the best solution we've got right now.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like, for what else would we do this?
I know. I think it's really hard for people to comprehend. And like you said, people don't understand. And that's really true. And I guess like what I really hope for is that people could start to think towards understanding. And I think what I mean by that is when you live a life that's quote unquote normal and you have all the supports you need and you're living a life where you're looking at people who are unhoused and you're like, I don't understand why they don't get a job. I don't understand why they're on drugs. Instead, trying to understand why it's possible and trying to understand from their perspective. And really the only way I've been able to do that, because I wasn't always believing the same things. I criticized going into this too. And I think for me, it was listening and sitting with people. And then that comes back to like the essence of community.
That's right.
And just getting to know each human. When I hear their stories and I can comprehend how they landed where they landed and how sad it is and how now I really feel on fire to help them, it's only because I sat and gave them time. And nobody does that.
And I mean, that's the truth. And I mean, I think that for those listening or watching, listening to this or watching it, if you've had no experience with meeting somebody who's living rough who is vulnerable right now, take it from two people here who've been involved in this for quite a while.
Yeah.
If you talk to people, it's a little off. It's a little frightening to realize how easy it is to fall into, where especially now, more than ever, because things are so tight economically for so many people. Like a failed relationship, a lost job, a trauma in your family, a mental crisis, any number of things. And you could talk about the pharmaceutical companies, or you had a bad injury. And you were prescribed drugs, and you were given far too many, and nobody really looked after you the way you should because the healthcare system failed you, and now you're out of it, and you need to self-medicate wherever you can. Like on and on and on the story
There's
goes.
so many stories.
And when you talk to people, as you say, it's humbling, because it's not as hard as people think.
I sit there and I'm just like, oh man, I don't know what I would have done.
That's right.
Like, I actually don't, like, you're brave.
Yeah.
The amount of energy it takes to survive every day
is
way more than I have to give in my day.
That's right.
I get to chill out. I get to have a nice iced coffee and sit with you.
That's right.
It's great.
Okay, let's talk about House of Hope for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's received a lot of attention lately. I've received a lot of attention when I wrote a Substack piece that said letting people die is bad public policy. It seemed to get the attention of some of the politicians even, but there was a lot of unknowns there for a little bit, and now there's a little bit more clarity on that. Maybe for those who are unaware, House of Hope is a full wraparound service facility that London Cares has. 48 people.
48 units.
48 units, people in there. And they're receiving all kinds of care, and you can say more about that. And the funding was recently removed from it, and there was a pretty large gap of time here where everybody was living in, we don't know what's happening. Now there is at least some sort of a plan. So maybe you can share with people what's going on in House of Hope and where things are headed right now.
Yeah. So about 3 years ago, our teams really identified a need. So supportive housing was not really started yet in this field. It was starting to grow slowly. There were a lot of, like, Indwell was already in the field. They've been doing things for a long time. It started to grow in other ways. Our team really noticed that there was a gap in people who, we use the term high acuity, the highest of acuity. So what that means is there's trimorbidities, right? So physical health needs, mental health needs, and addiction needs. And when those three are present, a lot of times they can't get care anywhere else. Because you can't have one to come in here, you can't have two to come in here, so they get kicked out. So we partnered with London Health Sciences Centre. And London Health Sciences Centre's goal was to keep people out of the emergency room so that people, when they're sick, could use the emergency room.
Right. Now you're dovetailing and able to help more than one issue at once, right?
And our team, the intake criteria was, are they going to die this winter? And so if they fit on the LHSC criteria and they fit on ours, we immediately moved them in. So at first, LHSC funded 25 people moving in, and we had some incredible successes. As the data started immediately, we could see it. People going from, like, in 6 months, 300 visits to the emergency room, and then moving in and then having none. Like, we immediately could see a drastic change. One woman, 2,000 police interactions before moving in. A couple afterwards, and supported by staff, was able to come home. So really, really incredible work. And then the City of London started to see how great it was, and they came in and brought another 25 people in. So we had about 56 at one point, because there's some double occupancy rooms. And the last 3 years, we've seen some incredible work. Some people organically coming off drug use, women who have no longer had to use sex work. We have people with a lot less need for the justice system. In fact, clearing up cases that they couldn't do on their own.
Backlogs in the courts.
Exactly.
ER, police.
Yeah.
All these things. If you can't care about people, but you care about money, you should know that you're saving a lot of money.
Absolutely. So much money. So the program goes really well. Then LHSC started having some problems. It was in the paper. So no longer able to support the program. So for the last couple of years, I worked really closely with city elected officials and city staff to make sure we could keep going. And so that looked like the last year of advocating to other funders, more provincial level funders, the Ministry of Health and others. And that became very complicated very quickly because we're a housing agency. We're not a health agency.
Right.
We didn't fit this type of criteria that they had around funding.
Right.
So no longer was there a health partner that was going to help us. So at this point, we realized coming into this year, we weren't likely going to get that money. So we put out some pleas. We did a bunch of media.
Yeah.
And recently, we know we have to close. Now, and we were very thankful that the anonymous donor with London Community Foundation's Fund for Change, who's done some significant work supporting and bolstering this work, has given us enough money to extend us just to the place where we will make sure that we house these folks, because that's really what matters.
Right.
You know, with House of Hope, we know it worked. We know that the data shows it worked, and if that data is helpful to help other supportive housings grow, then I'm happy with that.
Yes.
However, there is a bit of a gap that remains. So while there is enough units for a lot of people, there are people who are too high acuity and too complex, and the system still doesn't have a place for those folks.
Right.
So.
And I think that that's the part that worries me is
Me
that
too.
Because I think you and I know that we can put those 48 high acuity people into spots if they're made available by next spring or whenever it is
Yes.
that the thing sort of wraps up.
Yeah.
But we know that there's at least another 48 who could fill it up tomorrow,
100%.
right? Who also need it. They're no less in need.
That's right.
Right.
The transition itself might be a challenge, right? So
Yeah.
we've stabilized folks that we never thought would stabilize. So that's a win.
Yeah.
And that's incredible work that the staff have done.
Yeah.
As they transition, it may not be successful because they may struggle in the new spaces. So we're waiting to see longer term how many remain housed. We're really hoping to wrap around and support as much as we can. So we'll see what happens.
Well, as a ratepayer in the city, you know, they like to talk about taxpayers, politicians. I find it frustrating that we need a private donor because again, it was 1.37 million,
1.37,
right? Which is, you've noted, is a rounding error on the provincial budget. It's a fraction of what they come up with for police services. Again, I'm not suggesting we don't need good police services,
It's
but
both and.
but it's the way in which I feel like services that are needed in this city are pitted against one another,
Yes.
which is not necessary, because both things can be true at once.
It's
And-
harmful, I think, because what's required in this system is that we all get along well.
Yeah.
We have to, as agencies, intertwine with every case.
Yes.
Every agency works with the same people.
Yeah.
They move around in the system. And so if we're not in a really great relationship, there's problems.
That's right.
And so when funding comes in and it creates a competitive environment, it can create and fracture some of those things. So it's problematic. And I think in general, we said earlier, there's just simply not enough money in the system, and everyone's doing what they can, but everyone is doing like pieces here and there and burning out, and it's never enough.
Well, and it lacks coordination, right?
It does.
And I think, again, like I said, it shouldn't require a private citizen to step up. I mean, I'm glad that the private citizen is
So
doing
glad
everything
that-
that
yes.
person is doing what they're doing,
Yeah.
and grateful. And I add my voice to the many that are thankful for that. But it frustrates me that provincially, federally, and in a municipal sense, we're so hell bent on saving taxes when it comes to certain things.
Yeah.
And I don't get it.
I mean, I was under the impression, like in my career, like really that's what taxes are for. It's really to help those who are the most vulnerable and those who are in our society that need a lift up, right?
That's right.
People with disabilities, people.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of these folks are.
That's
Are
right.
people with disabilities, people with like learning disabilities, physical disabilities. I would say 99.9% of the people in the homeless population have some type of disability. So
It's
what are we
incredible.
doing?
And, you know, you made this point earlier, but it really is to do with a chronic lack of support. If you take the last 2 decades and you cumulatively look at the money that's been removed from the system,
Yeah.
what we always used to rely on in this country as a healthy social net has been eroded.
Eroded
You
completely.
know, and you know, I remember moving here in '94. And in '95, Mike Harris got elected premier with the Common Sense Revolution.
Yeah.
And as a fella coming from Newfoundland, where conservative doesn't mean much like it does here, I was like, I don't understand this. This doesn't sound like common sense. It just sounds mean.
I worked in the healthcare sector that year,
Yeah.
and watching Mike Harris defund the psychiatric institutions
Yeah.
and others. Not that institutions were doing everything perfectly.
No.
There's reasons why. However, the
But
downloading
with
money
nothing
didn't
else?
follow, right?
Yeah.
So community never got the money, but they got the people.
Yeah.
And then it took this many years to feel the crisis get this big. I think there's compounding things with COVID and with
course.
other things, but we never got that flow of the type of money that you actually need to do mental health.
It cuts to Ontario Works, ODSP. Like, I mean, it all compounds, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress, because if I go off on a political rant,
know, it's so
I'll get the
hard.
both of us in trouble. So this podcast is called From the Heart of the City. As you know, churches have long been a part of caring for vulnerable neighbors. You know what goes on across this city.
Right.
Where do you see churches getting it right?
Well, I've been impressed over here.
Thank
you unlocked your doors. Mm-hmm. That was profound when we talked about that one day.
Mm-hmm.
When I walk around, really majority in the core, right?
Mm-hmm.
And see locked doors. I think
Yeah.
that's where my heart just rips right out.
Yeah.
Then I wonder when I see other sort of, big mega churches.
Yeah.
All the money that goes into like production and beauty and like
Yeah.
that's sort of my past in that evangelical world.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed because they go every Sunday and they tithe and they do all the things that they're doing, but I don't see them anywhere. I don't physically see people. I believe that they probably donate and they care, and I think in their brain they're trying to do the right thing. No one's coming like physically to be with or help or steward with us.
I think that's the, and again, going back to the conversation of last week's episode with Kevin Nye, and I asked him this question, I'll ask it to you. If every congregation in London, if you could advise them to do one practical thing to help address homelessness, what would that look like?
Oh my goodness. That's a hard question.
Isn't it?
Oh, wow. Honestly, the hardest thing is stigma for me. So if it has to do with like educating themselves, coming and listening to stories, just coming to have a coffee with, come to 602 Queens and sit in the dirt with me as I'm talking to somebody.
That's right.
In my dress pants.
Yes.
Because that's what I needed to do.
Come
in
down
that
here to
moment.
St. Paul, come to Paul's place and have a meal with us.
That's right. And just hang out with us. Like it's that season, Sanctuary London on Wednesdays has their dinners.
Yeah. Go to the
just
Ark.
go hang out or go to the Ark and hand out a dinner.
Yeah.
Be present. There's like outreach workers called Hope, Hope Fan. They always have great volunteers. Like get involved and don't become that negative person who's like, why is this happening? But just be curious and ask questions and go see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you know what Kevin's answer was?
What?
Proximity.
So similar.
So it's the same answer. Kevin's thing was that we can't really be present as followers in the way of Jesus
From the distance.
if we're going to distance ourselves from the
Yeah.
people that we want to show love and care and compassion to.
I'm so curious if the distance has to do with a perception of safety.
100%
So I
probably
hear
does.
this a lot. Like, it's not safe for me to go downtown. It's not safe for me to bring my kids downtown. It's not safe.
Yeah.
I completely disagree. As someone who lived downtown and works downtown, it is uncomfortable
Yes.
to see some things. It's
and
uncomfortable
we
to
need to be
smell and-
disturbed.
Yes.
We should be disturbed
You
by it.
should be disturbed because it's horrifying what you see.
Now do
and
something.
What an opportunity
Yeah.
to learn and to talk. So
right.
if I'm walking with a child downtown and I see something like a needle or a person bent over, that is not like, oh, my child shouldn't see that. It's what's that conversation with my child now that takes us to another level.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've been down here for 2 years now, and I'm here every evening just about. I walk the neighborhood down here in downtown, and I live in Oak Ridge. And for those who listen from outside this region, that's a fairly well off neighborhood. So in the day, it used to be the neighborhood, but less so now. But I was at a church out there, and people say, well, I just like you said, I'm afraid to go downtown. It's not safe.
Yep.
Well, I can tell you, it is safe downtown. It doesn't mean that you can't, but it's, in every place in London right now, things happen, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But the truth of the matter is it's not unsafe, but it is disturbing. But I think that's something we don't need to look away from.
I agree. I think we need to challenge ourselves, right? Let's be uncomfortable. Let's see what that looks like. Let's stop being critical and start looking at what we can do together as a community. Yeah.
Well, the person in the ditch in the story of the Good Samaritan was a little bit unseemly, right? Mm-hmm. And the parable is told in a way to remind us that looking away is not the answer, right? But that proximity, going into the ditch, and being present to that person and tending to the wounds that they have. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of wounded walking down here.
We do. It's devastating.
It's devastating. And our hearts should be moved to compassion.
It should be.
That's what I believe is the appropriate sort of Christian response to this.
Yeah.
So 5 years from now, what does it look like for us if we're going to have success in this sector here in London, and we're gonna make change? And success is a funny word, but if we see progress the way we'd like to see it, what does that look like 5 years out?
5 years, I think, like there's so much work to do that 5 years is like a dent, right? Like
yes.
I see this taking decades.
Yeah. I think that's
so within the first 5 years, I think, I think we could do better at working together. I think we could do a lot better. I think we need to come together differently. I think we shouldn't let politicians run the way things are happening. And sadly, that's the way that it is. And I think that if community, churches, people, just caring individuals, volunteers, social service agencies, and others, if we work together, things will be better. My fear is that we're going to see a lot more politicization and probably even enter into privatization of services. And so in that case, it worries me because as a charity, I have accountabilities, right? I have a board of volunteers that has to oversee me and hold me to account.
Yes.
I have financials. All the financials have to be online and be accountable to them. I have to be open and available to speaking publicly with people at any time.
Yeah.
And I think that if we do go down that road of privatization and too much politicization, we're going to lose all of that. And it's going to become secretive. It's going to become like our buddies getting money. And that's just really dangerous. So that's my fear of where we're heading. Where we need to head is community working together. Housing. Housing is such a big deal. Get them inside. They should not be outside. Nobody should be outside. Yeah.
I said to someone a while ago, they said, I hate the look of everybody downtown. I said, well, there's a solution.
Yeah.
Get them a house.
Get them in. Yeah.
Get them in.
It's not hard.
Like
it's not complex. It is, I think we make it complex in the sense of like, what about their addictions? What about this? What about that?
Well,
and
but what about the addicted in Oak Ridge or Byron or
I mean, I know C-suite people that have more addictions and have a house in the Hunt Club or wherever they're living.
I met with London Police when I first came to London. One of the things I do when I went to Windsor, I did the same thing. I had a chat with a local police officer and asked, like, what are the issues? What are you getting called out to my neighborhood for? I want to know. And out there was two main calls in Oak Ridge where I was. One was domestic violence, and the other one was drugs. Drug overdoses and
in homes.
So
people who do drugs have homes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a shocking thing.
Imagine.
And so nobody is outraged about that.
Yeah.
But they're outraged because they see it down here.
No, because the person probably has a job and they're sort of functional in what they do and they're not dirty.
Yeah.
They're not standing in front of a building.
They'd be shocked to know that not all the overdoses in this city last year were downtown.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a piece of it. So all of it can be very, very life-consuming and all-consuming. This work that you do.
Yeah.
So how do you look after you, and how do you make sure that you don't end up burnt out at the end of this?
Yeah, that's taken a bit of practice because I was shocked at how hard it was. I actually thought, hey, I've been doing this a long time. I can handle this. Within my first year of being there, I'm pretty sure I was traumatized.
Yeah.
Watching literally someone die in front of me and then walk around our yard afterwards.
Yeah.
It does something to your brain.
It does, yeah.
Watching your staff and having to talk to them after because they're shaking.
Yeah.
That is not normal for a frontline sort of minimum wage job to do. And they don't get classified as first responders. So they don't get the benefits of what that would be. So I quickly after my first year, I'm pretty sure I was heading in that direction, and I was getting a little worried. So I did quickly listen to people around me. I quickly went back to my therapist. I regularly meet with him. I have a lot of colleagues in the sector who have been doing it for a long time. Hats off to Chuck Lazenby from Unity Project, who's probably one of the most incredible humans I know. She just has it figured out. She's like, boundaries. You need to turn it off. You can't do this all the time. Recently, I just moved from downtown. I was living downtown. I love downtown. I've been here almost 20 years in the downtown oldies core. I moved to Hyde Park. I needed to just get away and give a bit of distance. I needed to get closer with my family and not like think about work. So what can I do with family? I'm going to be a grandma.
Oh, good for you.
So I'm really jumping into this whole grandma thing and crocheting.
You're too young to be a grandmother.
I know, thanks. No, I'm not. But anyways, I appreciate that. And I think that's helping. I think it's just staying clear, keeping a distance with my heart. Now that I've kind of realized that it is very disturbing, I feel like I can hold it. And not hold it like too close. I think I can hold it out here a bit more.
We have to hold things a little more gently.
And not take it in and go, I have to fix this. It's the, I can't fix this. And how do I live in it?
It's very easy to have a savior complex in this, right?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Right?
Yeah, I came in quick going, I got this.
Yeah. And you learn very quickly, or at least I did here. Like, it's like, okay. Because you do that once, right? And then 5 minutes later, just like you said, you're back doing it again.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it doesn't end. It's a bit relentless because the need is so big.
Relentless is a great word.
It just keeps coming at you.
And it is like it's pounding at you.
Yeah,
it's I do recall feeling a bit like I had bullet holes in me. Like if it wasn't from the stories I was hearing or the staff difficulties, it was like what I was hearing on social media or politicians throwing at us, and like holding all of that together was just like I was losing my mind.
I think that's the part that I find surprising, I suppose, in a way. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised by it because of the climate we live in now, but even just showing up at council from time to time to show support for what you're doing or Sarah's doing over at the Arc or whatever. And just seeing the toxic stuff that you all have to deal with is just because you have enough, right? Like the stuff you're carrying is a lot. It's enough. And no human being should have to deal with it. And you lug all that around. And then while you're doing your level best and you're putting this care in, you've got politicians on one end who are using words like accountability. And I just sort of laugh. I'm thinking, I didn't even know you knew that word, because it's rich to hear accountability from a politician. But if it's not that, it's people sitting in the gallery, with signs with outrageous things to say about human beings.
Absolutely.
And about the people serving them.
Yeah.
Right?
It's really hard to kind of stay, like there's rage that starts to build up inside, right? Like, so I just did this at work all day, and now I go to council and I sit and I listen to this, and the disjointedness between the two really can get to you.
I can't even imagine. No. Like it's shocking.
It's really tough.
Anyway, we could talk about all of this stuff all day, but you won't you won't want to be here all day. So I want to do a fun thing that I've decided I'm doing at the end of my podcast, which is to do a lightning round of questions, just a little bit of fun. Okay.
Right.
Bit of fun here. Okay. Sunset or sunrise?
Sunset.
Okay. Kindle, audiobook, or paper?
Paper.
Okay. Unrelated, not on my thing. Writing in the margins or not writing in the margins?
No margins, white paper, right everywhere.
Right everywhere?
Yeah. I don't like any lines on my paper.
Okay. I mean the book. If you're using a paper book.
Then I write in the margins.
Okay.
And I highlight. I mean, all of it.
This is great. Yeah. Because I get called the book vandal.
Oh, yeah. I wreck
all my books, these books, covered in ink.
Yeah.
Okay. Ocean, prairie, or mountain?
Mountain.
Oh, mountain. Finish these sentences. I've changed my mind about...
Literally everything in life. And this work has flipped every paradigm in my world.
Yeah, I know. Everything. Isn't that something? Mm-hmm. That's good news.
Yeah.
But I the longer I live, the more I'm convinced that certainty is sin.
Yeah. Well, that's where I've gotten to in my leadership. It's if I know everything, I'm not being a good leader.
Yeah.
If I'm in a mode of learning and growing and allowing my team to teach me, then I'm a better leader.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's all wrapped up. We're all done. Somebody is getting up to talk about Chris, because she's gone to the great beyond.
Yeah.
What's the one word you hope people will remember about you?
Oh my goodness. I hope that they can just like, I'm just thinking like, why is that one stumping me?
I don't know. It's hard to think.
Joy is coming to my mind. So something
Joy?
like just like
Joy?
let's just have joy, relax.
I think about Chris. There's so many things. I would say like kind. I'd be like, oh, Chris is
Oh,
kind.
thanks.
And I'd be like, oh yeah. But also hopeful, like in the middle of all that, right?
I can still have some hope, yeah.
Yeah.
And I ask for it sometimes. So it's interesting. I did put that on Facebook one day. I'm having no hope. Give me some hope. I was trying to live off of other people's hope.
Right.
It was amazing how that disturbed some people.
Really?
Because I think they're hoping I just have it.
Yeah.
So I
yeah,
don't know. That
it's-
was interesting. But I do have it. It just, once in a while, it disappears.
Well, but we have to cultivate these things too.
It's true.
Anyway, look, I'm so grateful to you for making
what a
time to
fun
come and
time
be with
it
us.
was.
I'm
Thank
very
you.
grateful for what you do
Thanks.
and your persistence, because it is relentless work.
I'm stubborn.
You are, and that's good. That's a good quality to have in this work, because we need it. We need to be able to persevere, because it is really relentless. There is so much that comes at you in what you do, and Paul's Place and St. Paul's Cathedral support what you do.
Appreciate
We're
that so
happy
much.
to
Great
come
neighbors.
alongside as much as we can, and if there's more that we can be doing, please advise. I think we have to support one another. I think that the more ways we can work together, the better it'll be.
100%.
And I think that if we can find ways, churches, concerned citizens, 3 levels of government, and all the agencies pull together,
It would be incredible.
you know, we don't need the politicians to divide us. We can stand united and
That's right.
and fight back. So,
That's right. Yeah.
So thank you for what you do, and God bless you for spending
Yeah,
time with us.
Right back at you.
Okay, thanks. And many thanks again to London Care's Executive Director, Chris Moss. One of the things I really appreciate most about conversations with Chris is just how passionate and kind and hopeful that she is. And we're not just talking about homelessness when we're not just talking about mental illness or addiction. We're having a conversation about people and about their dignity. And Chris really deeply cares. And she knows that every person wants to be seen, and every person wants to be valued, and every person deserves a place worthy of being called home. Well, that's a wrap for me from here, and I will be on vacation for the next few weeks, so we won't see you here in this space for at least another 4 weeks. But as soon as I'm back, we will have a great lineup of guests coming ahead. Looking forward to a conversation with the Reverend Matthew Martin, who is chaplain at Huron University College. Looking forward to speaking with Robert P. Jones about his new book, Backslide. Speaking as well with Dr. Randy Woodley about his book, and to Miroslav Wolf, who brings so much to us about human flourishing. Looking forward to speaking with him, and as well as Pastor Lillian Daniel. We're working on a timing there, but we hope to speak with her about her new book, Defrocked. So lots of good guests, more being added every week. I'm thrilled about the way this new podcast has launched to date. As I said earlier, help us out by sharing it with others. And I'll see you next time right here from the heart of the city.
The hearth is warm, the ale is poured. The whispers of ancient tales are roared. Feet are tapping on the floor as the music calls us to the door.